we good to go, Amanda? All righty. It is 9:01. I'll call this special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for Elbert County to order. Amanda, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Thayer?
Here.
Commissioner Pettit?
Here.
All righty. So the purpose of today's meeting is to receive a presentation of the proposed budget for 2023 and receive public comment. Before we begin, I had a couple of things I just wanted to...
You want me to open the meeting or open the hearing?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
I'll make a motion to open a public hearing on the 2023 budget.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to open public hearing on the 2023 budget. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, so just a couple of things to keep in mind as we go through this. One, this is a presentation of the draft budget for comment and input for the public. We're not adopting the budget today. That's planned for the 21st of December at this time. As a budget, all budgets are really based on assumptions and estimates, where we refine those estimates as times go on. I mean, we went through a big drill in October to project what our end of year spending will be. We've had an opportunity to go back and make sure we're where we think we are before we adopt the formal budget. One of our assumptions, we've got several assumptions that were built in terms of what the cost of our casualty and property insurance is going to be. We had an assumption built in on what our health care would be. We've got the health plan numbers now are solid. We're still waiting on casualty and property insurance. There's other things that are still estimates. Probably the biggest one is, our starting fund balances for 22 are estimated, assumed to be what we had presented for audit at the end of 21. We're still waiting for those audited numbers to come back. Should have those within a week or so, well before the budget is adopted. The budget is a plan. It allows us to spend, but sometimes opportunities arrive throughout the year. The purchase of the SEB was an opportunity. For $500,000, we got 10,000 square feet of ready-to-use office space. It's one of those things you can't pass up when the opportunity comes. Sometimes we have projects planned and something unexpected happens, like COVID, and money gets spent on things that wasn't what we planned, or we see asphalt prices spike, so a project that was planned is curtailed or pushed off to another year. And then finally, that our budget illustrates truly the priorities of the county. And for this year, we were very hard and fast that we were going to take care of our employees. That was our number one priority. That's what we wanted to fund before we looked at anything else. And we knew we were going into relatively tough times with flat revenue. In this budget, we've accounted for a 4% COLA and up to a 3% merit increase for all employees, which is about, I'd say 2 to 3, probably closer to 3 times more than we've ever been able to fit into a budget. It's not enough based on the inflation rates we've seen this year, but it's something that we can all address when we get to the mid-year relook at the budget in June. So I do want to thank, there are a couple of things we did differently this year. We established a budget steering committee early on in the year, and that's served us very well. Dallas is a member of the steering committee. He'll be presenting on behalf of them to us today. But the other big change was bringing in the OpenGov software, which, it's always kind of a zoo when new software is fielded and everybody's got to learn a new tool, but we would not have been able to get to where we are today without it. The fact that at the department level, people could do their inputs and all the math happened magically in the cloud, and then we could see the results rolling up, is just light years ahead of where we were with sharing Excel spreadsheets and then having to put them all together in the back room and in trying to make, the October 15th deadline for a budget. In the past, what we've had is a heroic effort to put together the budget for the 15th to present to us, and it was so much work that almost nothing changed afterwards. OpenGov allows us to recognize a change, put it in, and it propagates throughout the whole budget. And so what we have when we finally adopt in December will be a much more accurate representation of where we're at. But I do want to thank everybody in the room, because I know everybody in the room had a piece of putting this together. And with that, I turn it over to Dallas to present the draft budget we're looking at. Thanks. I'm sorry. Did either of you have anything you'd like to say? Or? Okay, thanks.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dallas Schroeder. I'm standing before you today representing the Budget Steering Committee to present the 2020 draft budget in our public hearing today. Before I get officially started, I do want to point out the members of the Budget Steering Committee who had a lot of meetings, did a lot of work getting involved. Commissioner Pettit, myself, Sheriff Norton, our Public Works Director Rory Hale, Facilities Manager Bobby Cheveria, and from our Finance and Budget Office, Tiffany Hermit. So those folks did a lot of extra work, and they needed a pat on the back for helping put all this together. So, all the public, thanks for your interest in today's 2023 budget. Hopefully we have some people online that are watching. Today is the opportunity for the public hearing and for the public the opportunity to provide feedback on the budget. The commissioners are scheduled to consider approval of the budget on December 21st, 2022. And I think it's important to point out once again that there may be changes made between now and December 21st. We don't anticipate anything, any major changes, but things may get tweaked a little bit as we go along over this next month. And we will have opportunity for public comment in today's presentation if anybody comes in a little bit late. So an outline for today, we'll of course have the welcome. Notable things that we'll hit are the budget process, the 2023 budget strategy and goals, budget summary, the ARPA effect over the last couple of years on the budget. That's the American Recovery Program. We'll have some notable items from this year's budget. We'll look quickly at fund summaries and then specifically at Fund 10, as that's where most of the departments lie. As everybody in this room knows, the budget process is a year-long event. And we have, it's something that's on the forefront of all elected and department head mind throughout the year. And so now we're through November, and all we got left now is the December final steps. So there'll be certification of the mill levies. BOCC will consider adoption of the final budget on 21st. And before that, we'll have our final adjustments. So we'll keep that in mind as we hit those dates. This is a new flow chart of how the interaction between the different departments and elected officials. And it may take a minute to understand. I know it doesn't show up too well on the screen there, but it shows the relationship between the commissioners and the county manager, the other elected officials, different department heads, and different assigned duties. And so some of them have direct management leadership lines over them. Those would be the solid lines. A longer dashed line are coordinated and support lines. So you see one of the ones there is that both the county commissioners and the county managers provide coordination support to the elected offices. And then the dashed line that's really close together are specifically assigned duties. And so all the line on the bottom are assigned duties to our county manager. There's specific duties that assigned to the commissioners, and they're all shown by that dashed line. And so I think at first glance it looks like it's a little more confusing, but it's much more relatable as how things really work. So I think it's a good representation of the interaction that everybody has with each other. As far as budget strategy, there are several things that go into creating the strategy, going behind the scenes on the budget. One of the things is the Elbert County Strategic Plan that's in place for 2018 through 2027. That's at the forefront of the strategy. The Commissioner's budget goals, the 2023 budget goals every year. You all put out the goals that you have for the year for the budget and what you'd like to see in the upcoming budget. There's always elected officials and directors collaboration in putting the budget together, and our idea of continuous improvement budgeting, that each year we do it better. And we don't rest on our laurels, that we continue to move forward. Commissioner Richardson mentioned the Gov Pilot program. That's going to be a great enhancement as we all get more familiar with how that works. And it will, as I understand it, provide more opportunity for us to be more transparent to the citizens as we can put different metrics on the line for people to see. For example, how many motor vehicle transactions there were, or how many building permits were pulled. And so that'll be an interesting dynamic that we've not had before that just lends itself to more transparency from county government to the citizens. As far as our strategic plan alignment and with the strategic plan and goals, there's 5 main ones here. First of all, we want to maintain a financially sustainable county government that is transparent and effective. Number 2, to ensure a qualified, trained, efficient workforce. 3, deliver plans, updates, and status to citizens via multiple channels while ensuring open two-way communications. And plan for continuity of government in case of disaster, infrastructure failure, or economic impacts. And 5, to support growth and economic activity in the county. So those are kind of some foundation pieces that we want to make sure that the budget is addressing and making sure that those goals are being supplied by the budget. As mentioned before, the commissioners put out budget goals, and there's a paper. People, if the citizens are interested, there's a whole paper that was put out that we can get to them, but this is the summary. The 22 budget goals going into the 23. The purpose is to guide the development of the preliminary 2023 county budget. This document serves to supplement the broader goals articulated in the county's finance policies and strategic plan objectives over the upcoming year. So you can see how it's following right along from the strategic plan now into the budget goals. Overall, things to look at they wanted to introduce in 2022, getting ready for the 23 budget, was the Budget Steering Committee. We mentioned that before, but given the events of the last 6 months, it was very fortuitous that we had that committee in place. It was good foresight on the commissioners to have that committee in place. Overall, we always look for a balanced budget. We want to include fund balance planning, maintaining and building contingency and stability funds, monthly cash flow analysis and variance reporting. And I'll just say that the Pilot Gov will definitely help with those last 2 as well as we get those more familiar with that program. Within the budget goals, we had to make some assumptions of what the CPI index would be, healthcare, property insurance, population increases in the county. So there had to be some assumptions made, which they were put into the budget goals as the budget was being developed with those expectations coming forward.
Yeah, to be completely transparent, we blew the CPI estimate horribly.
I can't
Probably
imagine
by
why.
a factor of 2.
So that's why they're assumptions. It's the best guess, right? Sometimes you miss them. Sometimes things are out of our control. As far as personnel, we're looking at FTE needs, prioritizing those FTE needs, looking at cost benefit of paying overtime for our employees versus bringing on a temporary or part-time, looking at pay and benefits, and then just looking at different efficiencies, if it's more efficient to do certain projects in-house or to have them contracted out. And so we're right on target with those. Last 2 main budget goals that the commissioners put forward, you guys put forward, capital investment was to continue to build on that capital improvement fund. And as far as specific policy changes, focus on tracking, improving budget process, guidance for vacancy savings, plan for investment, and cash in lieu of open space. Some of those policy changes, the last 2 in particular, did not get done this year. We had a departure of the county manager in July, our finance manager the week before the draft budget was due, and so there suddenly became other priorities than these. I would assume that moving forward, the commissioners will keep these on their budget goals to look forward to in 2023. We've mentioned several times the Gov Pilot program, but that will definitely improve our budget process. It just takes us all a little bit of time to learn something new. Some of us older folks take a little bit longer than the newer folks, but everybody's going to get on board. It's going to be a great tool for us to use. As far as the budget, it is a balanced budget. Our expenses will not exceed revenues and fund balance, and that is one of the key factors, one of your budget goals, but also I think it's good business, good way to do things. In past, budgets have utilized fund balance for one-time expenses. Now this budget does use some balance for recurrent expenses, and our fund balance has grown and grown. We have had many conversations about that I don't think the citizens intend for us just to sit on a bunch of money. It's supposed to be utilized and give services back to them. So this budget does use some fund balance for recurrent expenses. And then the third thing that really affects this budget and previous budgets was the ARPA effect, the American Recovery Program. And I just want to quickly go into what that effect was. The funding of ARPA in 2021 amounted to $2.6 million, and the funding of ARPA in 2022 amounted to $2.6 million. And so the funding took place in 2022, but we couldn't get all the projects done that were associated with that we wanted to use those funds for into 2022. So we have $2.1 million of ARPA expenses that are in the 23 budget. And so it creates, when you just look at one snapshot of 1 year, it looks like things get a little bit out of whack. But the bottom line is, when you look back at the ending of 2023 of where we're forecasting to be, we'll be at the same fund balance at the beginning of 2022. So it balanced out over the year. We received the funds in 2022 and expended them in 2023, and that's just how it ends up showing up differently in the budget. Some notable items that are in this budget: the general fund does dip into the general fund balance by $2.1 million. There's a few things here: 4% cost of living adjustment across the board for all employees except electeds, just so everybody's aware of that, and newly electeds. There is built into the budget for every department a 3% of wages, salaries available, not required, but available for merit increase on the anniversary date of employees' hire date. This is a little bit of a streamlining and consistency effort by the county. I know different departments did their merit increases on different ways, and some were waiting until the end of the year to do their evaluations and doing raises and merit at that point. Others were doing it throughout the year, and so this will streamline, make it consistent throughout. So the 3% is not an automatic; it's a merit increase, and it'll be based on the anniversary date of the employee's hire date. Number 4 here, there's a severance tax of $400,000. That was the amount of money that the county received in 2022 on that severance tax, based on oil and gas production within the county. And in a very conservative manner, that was the number carried forward into the 2023 budget. We anticipate that number will be bigger than $400,000 in 2023, but we don't know that. And so to be very conservative, we just carried that same number forward into the 2023 budget. This budget has a net employee gain of 1 full-time employee, and it brings the total FTEs in the county to 197.5. This budget increases the stability fund to $5 million, and it includes a $500,000 transfer to the capital improvement fund, all part of the commissioner's budget goals. Number 8 here is a notable event. The county tax revenues are expected to be flat in 2023 due to the adjustments by the state legislature. Even with the property values rising here, with the adjustment that they've made, we are expecting county revenues, tax revenues, to be flat. And lastly, there was a $180,000 transfer to the retirement fund from the General Human Services, Public Health, and Road and Bridge funds to make that retirement fund where it needs to be and meet that goal of having the 3-month reserve going into 2023. In the future, that may be something that needs to be looked at to adjust how the mill levies are allocated to make sure that there's enough going into the retirement fund so that transfer won't have to take place in the future, but that will be evaluated as time goes on to see if that's necessary or not. So a summary for the budget. The key changes in revenues across all funds from 2022 to 2023 are as follows. So total revenues and transfers in were budgeted in 2022 of $41.6 million. Total revenues and transfers in budgeted in 2023, $41.2 million, almost $41.3. So the total decrease of $342,439. Now, I just said the tax revenues were flat. You may think that that means that we're going to have the exact same, but there were some other factors that went in there with the economy as it is, not expecting as many building permits to be pulled and so forth like that, that reduced those revenue lines. Total expenditures and transfers out budgeted in 2022 is $41.1 million, and total expenditures and transfers out budgeted in 2023 is $4.7 million, for an increase of $609,010. And the ending fund balances, these are all funds, all fund balances. 2022 projected is $48,876,000, and then 2023 projected $48,432,000 for a slight decrease of $444,240 in all funds. This gives a little bit of a chart on the different funds and where their budgets are. I'll just point out some of the bigger ones here. The general fund, obviously, where most departments are housed, at $18.1 million. Roads and Bridge Fund has $9.7. Human Services Fund, just over $7 million, and a couple more over of $1 million there. But there's our $41,724,000. When you look at a graph with those numbers, this is what it looks like. Obviously, the general fund has the lion's share. They're the largest fund. Then we see the Road and Bridge Fund and the Human Services Fund, and then the relative amounts to the rest of the funds. Since Fund 10, the general fund, is the biggest one, we want to drill down a little bit deeper into that. This chart, it's in the draft budget. But here it is on the screen. So general fund departments within there, I just want to point out the non-departmental $1.5 million. These are contracts, things that aren't specific to one particular department but benefit everybody. And so that gets put into the non-departmental line. IT, information technology, $1.2 million. Sheriff's Office through the Patrol Admin, 5.1. Sheriff's Office Detention, 2.1. And so as we see all those different funds through there of what their budgeted expenses are, those were the ones that are over $1 million. And once again, we have the chart here of showing how that money is distributed between the different departments. And you just see they're aligned, same with what I said with the Sheriff's Office, with the other administration, all those different line items now in comparison to the overall budget. So what's next? Fine-tune revenue and expense lines. We continually will be looking at that to make those fine adjustments. And I just want to reiterate that minor changes may occur between today and December 21st, both for the public and for those in the room here. There may be minor changes that still take place. There'll be final edits to budget narratives. I know that for all the department heads and electeds in the room, we'll be asked to look over your budget narratives again and your budgets just to make a final determination that that's exactly how you want it to look and what needs to be presented. And a presentation will be to the BOCC on December 21st for consideration of approval of the budget, and assuming that is approved, submitted to the state by January 31st of 2023. So in conclusion, budget goals are met. This is a balanced budget. Essential county services are funded, and reserves are secured. And one I really want to highlight is the teamwork that goes involved to put this budget together. I've been fortunate enough to be around for a little bit. This is the 9th budget cycle that I've worked on. I'm always pleased and amazed at how everybody comes together and works hard to make this budget work, not only for our departments, but for our citizens as well. It's the one event that kind of brings us all together, ties us all together, and it's always a pleasure to be part of that and see how everybody works and gets along. And it's something that I don't know how we can adequately explain that to the citizens of what goes in, how much work and effort everybody puts in to not only the compilation of the budget, but in monitoring and keeping it going. And so just personally, I want to say thank you to everybody. I know it's a big thing. We look at it year long, but it makes a big difference. So we'll keep going. Budget formulation, compilation, development, and execution is a year-long event. I don't have to tell anybody in this room that. You already know that because you're looking at it. But it really is. And by January, we'll start already looking at the 24 budget and what we need to start prepping for that. And so it's just something that continues all year long. We'll have continuous evaluation and implementation of plans for future county needs. That always needs to be in the forefront as we look for in the future of our budget. And we'll have continuous updates to our strategic plan as demographic and economic changes affect the county, which we know it will. And so it causes us to constantly adjust what we're doing. But with that ends the official presentation, and I'll turn it back over to Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Dallas. Very much appreciated. Any comments or questions? Yeah, thank you.
Just a quick comment. The county is in good financial shape. Some time ago, the county didn't have enough money to pay the next month's salaries. Now we've got enough cash in the bank that we can go a full quarter without any income, pay all the expenses. We've got the rainy day fund set aside, or what I call the rainy day fund, but it's contingency funds so that if this downturn really turns out to be as significant as it might be, we will still be able to provide all of the services to our citizens. To me, the budget process has been very, very positive in that we know where the county is and where we expect it to be going.
I've got a few comments, but I want to thank Dallas and Dave Fisher and Rory and Ed for sitting on the steering committee, but also thank Chris because he's put in hours on the nights and the weekends and stuff trying to make sure narratives are where they're supposed to be in the numbers and everything. But the other thing I wanted to say, everybody, you can look at the budget and we've got $48 million ending balance. But when you look at that and you start getting the numbers, like the general fund for their 3-month reserve to cover the first quarter, that's about $5 million because it takes a little over $1.5 million to pay all the normal expenses every month. So you start taking the ending, or the amount that each fund has to have to cover that first 3 months. That starts dwindling down that $48,000 fairly quickly. But the other thing is, we've got $5 million in the stability fund, which is included in that balance. You've got $500 contingency. But also part of it is, if you look at those numbers, we've got a $12 million loan to build the road and bridge building of $12.5 million or $12 million. But that is included in that balance also. So when you start taking those items out, the actual money that we've got in excess that we could use in case of an emergency is not as much as you think. So just because that big number is there doesn't necessarily mean that that's money that the county can use. And the other thing I wanted to say is on the 4% merit raise or the cost of living, that's the biggest since I've been here. But one thing that we have to take into consideration, granted, we probably could have gone up to what the CPI is, But one thing we have to take into consideration, is it going to be sustainable for future years? If we give a big increase now and revenues go down or stay flat, are we going to be able to pay that, 3-4 years down the road? So that's one reason why we started with 4 and we've stuck with that. Just trying to determine that, yes, we can maintain that down the road, because we don't want to be cutting hours. We don't want to be cutting wages if the economy goes south on us. And we've already seen that with the price of goods and everything, that keep going up and up. But I just wanted everybody to understand, just because that $48 million is not really funds that we can just dip into for anything we want.
Yeah, thank you. As it is a public hearing, I'll open for public comment at this time. Most of you are also citizens, so if you have anything you'd like to throw out, we'll take it. But Amanda, did we have anybody that wanted to be called?
No, we didn't have any requests for a call.
Okay. And then we did receive one letter of protest, which I think you had
Correct.
a copy for the record on this one. But
I do.
that was from Ms. Susan Schick. It was pursuant to revised statute 29-1-107 of the Colorado Local Government Budget Law. She submits a protest to our proposed budget. And essentially the concern is that we haven't received our final financial audit for 2021, so we don't have audited start numbers for 22. And she is correct. I think we'd all like to be able to wave a magic wand and ensure that key personnel don't wind up in the hospital for a month at a critical time, or that we can hold our nationwide auditing firm to just looking at our organization and not having to move on to other clients and then come back to us when they have time. Now, she is correct that without audited numbers, we don't have that one known start point, but as I said at the beginning, just about everything in the budget is an estimate. We're estimating future revenues, we're estimating future expenses. We do know how much money we have in the bank at any given time. The audited numbers that are reflected in the draft budget are those numbers that were submitted for audit, and we got a high level of confidence that those will be relatively unchanged when we receive our final audit, which I was looking at my phone a few times during the presentation because I was kind of hoping it would come in during the presentation, but we had some things going back and forth for signature yesterday, so my belief is that we're going to have it either today, tomorrow, or early next week. Next week, our auditor is in actually to start work on the 2022 audit. So once we have that all together and he'll be in-house, we'll be able to potentially schedule a presentation from the auditor to us. Ms. Schick does ask that because we don't have the audit, that we self-invoke what she terms to be the 90% rule, where we agree to adopt a budget that already appropriates 90% of this year's current budget. Statutorily, if we don't submit a budget, we can't spend more than 90% of what we spent this year. We will submit a budget. That's not an issue, and we will have the audited numbers to adjust the draft budget before we consider this for adoption. So if she is listening or watches the tape, I hope she finds that acceptable. A couple of other items just from the presentation. As Della said, the OpenGov software is tremendous. If citizens haven't taken an opportunity to go online and look at the online budget book, every chart that's in there for every department, you can actually click on it and open it up and get down to the line item level of what was used to build the budget going forward. It allows you to look, there's charts that break down the components of spending for each department, and you can slide back and forth and look at what the spending was in 2019, 2020, 21, 22, what's projected in 23, and see what those changes are over time. So it's a tremendous step forward in transparency to our citizens. there was a note there looking at internal and external functions. Went for quite a while, I would say, at least 10 years, and if not longer. The county has contracted for an external financial analyst that puts together our financials for audit. That was the least expensive way to get that level of talent into the county and to ensure that our financials were ready for audit. Now, that's a small firm, it's one deep. The gentleman was not available during a very critical time, and that's put us behind. We'd recognized that certainly many months ago, and we've had a hiring action to bring that in-house. Haven't had anybody respond, but people with that level of expertise and that level of knowledge are in high demand. We've gone through COVID, we've gone through the Great Retirement. We're in a situation where the federal government is trying to hire about 87,000 tax agents that all come from the same, kind of the same pool that we're looking at. But we hope to bring that in-house so we don't have that issue in the future. Not mentioned here, there were some statutory changes this year that allow us to bring our coroner up to full-time pay. For those that don't know, the coroner's been a part-time position and paid as a part-time position, and after 2 years of COVID and in a growing county, that elected official works just as much as all the others. And so being able to make that change is a good thing. Appreciate the comment on looking forward to adjusting the retirement mill levies. We do need to make sure we're keeping that whole, and we haven't adjusted the mill levy since our contribution was 4%. We moved up to 5%, and we've also brought more employees on, so that time is coming. One of the changes that the public may see in this budget is we're booking the retirement expense in the department where the person resides in this budget versus booking the expense in the retirement account itself directly. So it gives a truer cost of what it takes to run each department. But it also, that accounts for what looks like a very steep increase in pay and benefits, but 5% of the benefits that people were receiving was actually tucked away in the retirement account and wasn't quite as visible. So I do ask that departments do review and send changes, not only narratives, but if looking at your proposed spending and projected spending up through the end of the year, if you've got significant changes, let us know. I mean, the budget worksheets are locked now, but as we get closer, if there's a big swing in numbers, let us know so we can make that adjustment. I know the fellow commissioners talked about the stability contingency funds. I was looking back at the budget for 2017, which was prepared by the predecessors to Grant and I. Within the general fund, it equated to 57 days worth of funding. And what doesn't happen in the first 57 days of the year is we don't collect property taxes. So we paid our bills during that time in that first year, but we were subsisting on fees that were brought in from DMV, from the building department, ticket revenue. I think at that time we had patrolmen that were in the LEAF fund. So we were subsisting on fees to our citizens, which really isn't adequate or fair. Those fees should be directed to the services they're receiving directly. So tremendous move forward over the last 6 years. Every year has been entirely different as we prepare the budget, but I think we get better and better each year. When it looks forward to projecting for next year, we know reassessments have taken place for property, but we don't know what the legislature will do. The Gallagher Amendment, which was removed from the Constitution by a vote, I think the year before last, had given us at least 2 years of stability because we knew when adjustments were going to be made. We knew the formula that would adjust the amount of property tax collected. That's now been turned over to the hands of the legislature, and I suspect that next year not being an election year, it'll probably stay stable. The year after that, as people are looking for re-election, we may see some legislative moves to reduce local property taxes. Doesn't affect the state budget, but it's in it affects local budgets, but it's in the hands of the state legislature. So those are some things that we just need to be cognizant of moving forward. Again, kind of overrode, we only had that one letter of protest, so I'll close public comment at this time. And I guess before we just close up, open it up to you guys in the room. I mean, you did the lion's share of the work. Like I said, I do want you to look through the narratives because I did a whole lot of updating while I was taking a whole lot of Dayquil and NyQuil, so I know I don't have it perfect, but so just any thoughts on right now for the group? I mean, we don't get together all that often, so whether it's your experience with OpenGov, if you got anything, we'll take it now. If not, I would like everybody to join me in a round of applause for our one-person finance department. Tiffany, you've been tremendous. And we got some interviews scheduled for tomorrow, so hopefully next week we'll have some help for her in there. I told her I'd give her 2 Christmases, but she'll have to take the second one next year. So anyway, thank you very much.
I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close public hearing. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Does anybody object? Okay. We are adjourned.